How do we prove to a Muslim that the Bible is from God? By using the Quran.
Hello, welcome to another episode of the Islamic Dilemma. This Muslim says the Islamic dilemma is faulty but can't refute it. There is something in law that says he who alleged must prove. If you don't have evidence, then your claims cannot be trusted. This is the case of this Muslim guy. Let's watch this video for more amazing details.
T, you're on stage. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Pretty good.
Yeah, so I just wanted to engage with you on 1094.
Okay.
That's the topic, right? So I think just sort of cut to the chase. I think the position that you're taking with it being the Bible, the Torah, or the Injil being the authority or the standard by which basically over the Quran, I think that it's a bit of an extreme position, because the problem that you have to deal with is that the Quran is making conscious edits to the Bible.
There you go. Dean, is that Dean?
No, it's T. It's Tamor.
Are you sure you ain't Dean response?
It's Tamor.
Oh, Tamor. Okay, I thought you was Dean. My bad.
No. So then, how do you square that? How do you square saying that it's the standard, but at the same time it is making conscious edits?
Conscious edit with the editor.
Do you agree that according to 1094, the previous scriptures are the authority over what the Quran says?
No.
Let's start there. And then we could talk about the conscious edits that the Quran makes and see if that idea lines up with what the Quran says, okay?
Yep.
All right. So it says, if you are in doubt about that which we have revealed to you, then go and ask those who have been reading the scripture before you. The truth is from your Lord, so don't be among the doubters, right?
Yep.
Okay. So according to the verse, what is Muhammad supposed to do in the case that he doubts?
He's supposed to refer to the people who read the scripture before him.
Very good. And what would that do for him if he did that?
So in the context of 1094, I'll speak in the context of 1094. 1094 is located in a spot where there's discussion of the other prophets' stories.
No worries.
Moses.
No worries. What will it do for Muhammad if he was in doubt about what the Quran was revealing to him? Let's say about those stories and the histories of the prophets, and he goes and checks the previous scriptures or asks those who've been reading it before him. What will that do for him,
Well, yeah, I guess if I could just make a comment that for him, it's not going to do specifically anything, because he actually, in tafsir, from what I've read, he says that he won't doubt and he won't ask.
I know, but the hypothetical question, if he did, the answer to my question, if Muhammad doubted and the Quran tells him what to do if he does, what will going to the previous scriptures do for him? The third time.
Well, it's going to, basically, the previous scriptures are telling the stories of the prophets, right? The broad stories of the prophets, and especially in the context of 1094, those stories are the stories of Moses, of Noah, of Harun. So he and the people, anyone around him who doubts, would see that these general stories are the same stories as what the Quran is mentioning.
Good. So what would that do for them?
It would show them that they are in line with previous scriptures.
Very good. Then it will clear up their doubts about the Quran if they had any, right?
Well, it clear up their doubts about the Quran. Yeah, I mean, I don't know that it's speaking to every single point in the Quran, but I can see where you're going. Generally.
Let's even talk about what you're saying.
Yeah.
And it's only referring to the stories of the previous prophets that the Quran mentioned.
Right.
So if they have doubts regarding these stories that the Quran is talking about, they can go to the previous scriptures and see if the Quran is in line with them or not. And if they see that the Quran matches what's in the previous scriptures, it'll clear up any doubts that they might have had in the Quran, right?
Yes, generally speaking, it would show that they're not out in left field, but the stories that they are receiving are the same stories that came in the previous scriptures.
Awesome. Now, if they check the previous scriptures and they see that these stories are not matching what the previous scriptures have mentioned, then they'll have good reason to doubt the Quran and know that it's false, right?
Yeah, I think I could agree with that. If they're seeing that, if they go to the previous scriptures and there's no Harun, there's no Moses, there's no
not just that there's no Harun or Moses, but what they did, what happened with them, their stories, right? Not just that the people existed, but their stories.
Yeah, right? If it's telling a different story, then yeah, I would agree with you that they would say, well, hang on a second. We've gone and these previous stories don't match up with the stories what we're getting.
So then they'll know the Quran is false if it doesn't match, right?
They may be concluding that, yeah.
Which is rightfully so based on the verse, right?
Well, I think you could come out with that, yeah.
Okay. Meaning that according to this verse, at least regarding these stories of the previous prophets, the Bible, the Torah and the Gospel are the authority over the Quran, right? They're the ones that determine whether or not the Quran got these stories right or wrong, right?
In the context of these general stories, I would agree with you.
Awesome. So this means that in the context of these general stories, the Torah and the Gospel are the authority over the Quran. We agree?
I could agree to that.
Okay. So if I read my scriptures, I read the Torah and Gospel, and I see that the Quran doesn't match, then that would mean that the Quran's false.
If you qualify that to mean the general stories, yes.
I mean, yeah, that's what the general story means. Moses and the Exodus, Aaron, his brother, the golden calf story, right?
Yes.
Pharaoh and all of that, Noah and his story, Jesus and his story.
Agreed.
Okay. So when I look into the story of Jesus, for example, and I look in the gospel, I see that it says that Jesus was crucified under Pontius Pilate and rose again on the third day. The Quran obviously goes against that, right?
Correct.
That means that the Quran gets the story of Jesus wrong and therefore is false.
Well, now that, I don't know if I would agree with that because
you have to.
The Quran, I'm trying to think here of that particular story. The Quran is saying no to the crucifixion of Jesus, right? Mm-hmm. That's a piece of the story, but it is not saying no to the fact that the Jews had intention to kill him, right?
It gets the story wrong. That's the point.
Well, the ending of that story, yes, and it makes it.
That's not the end. That's not the end of the story. What? It's not the end of the story. That's a huge chunk of the story. That's the main event.
Well, okay, now when you say it gets it wrong, what it actually, I wouldn't use the word gets it wrong. It actually gives its own correction or view to that, right? Because
I'm saying that it gets it wrong because we just agreed that when it comes to the stories of the prophets, the Torah and the Gospel are the authority over the Quran. If the Quran doesn't match what the previous scriptures say in these stories, then the Quran got it wrong and is therefore false. So when the Gospel says Jesus was crucified over and over again, and then the Quran comes and says no, he wasn't, then the Quran got it wrong and is therefore false.
So would you agree that the Quran says that Jesus was sent to the children of Israel?
Yep.
Would you agree that the Quran says that the leaders among the children of Israel sought to do him harm?
Yep.
Would you agree that they rejected his message?
Yep.
So this is the story, right? So it's telling that story, but at the end,
they give him up. Wait, hold on. Why are you stopping there? Did they give him up to be crucified by the Roman pagans?
The Quran doesn't mention that piece.
Was he eventually crucified?
That's the correction the Quran makes.
It's not a correction. Was he crucified?
The Quran says that there was a crucifixion, so it verifies that there is a crucifixion.
I'm going to ask you very nicely to not play with my intelligence at this point in the live stream. I've been live for almost 4 hours, so please don't do this. Please answer honestly and straightforwardly, okay? My patience is wearing thin with a lot of the previous guests. I know it's not fair to you that I don't have the same level of it because you're new, you're fresh. I got to treat everyone fresh, right? However, I am human. And if you play with my intelligence, it'll piss me off. So don't do it. Please answer straight away, okay? That'll really help me in this moment.
Go for it.
Okay. Do you agree that Jesus was crucified?
No.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that, brother. So the gospel says he was crucified. The Quran says he wasn't. Do you believe that he was resurrected from the dead?
No.
Right? Because the Quran says he wasn't dead in the first place, so no resurrection. Do you agree that Jesus appeared to his apostles and disciples and those who followed him for a period of 40 days before ascending to heaven?
The Quran is silent on that.
Well, it's not silent on that because it rejects the whole resurrection. So it rejects all of that takes place with the resurrection and his appearances after he rose.
Probably. Yep.
So with that being said, let me ask you one last thing. Do you believe that when he ascended to heaven, that he sat down at the right hand of the right hand of God?
I cannot confirm or deny that. I don't know. From a Quranic point of view, I don't know. Yeah. Okay. But I guess the last thing I'll say is I think we can kind of look at the story and pull out pieces of the story and say, okay, is this verified or not? Like, I think you've pulled out a few more pieces than I did, but generally speaking, I would
listen to a story. When you say generally, that's like that's like saying, okay, that most of this is good, but there's some parts, there's some little pieces, when you say general, that's the majority.
Well, I'm sort of going back to what you said earlier. Yes, there was an Exodus. The Quran tells a story of that. Yes,
specifically about Jesus. If you're getting the story wrong about Jesus, and you get the biggest main event thing that happened in the life of Jesus, and you get the Quran gets that wrong, then the Quran is false.
Yeah, no, I see. I can understand your point, but I think the mistake you're making is you're using this word wrong. Like, if you say wrong, then this word really doesn't fit, right? Like,
it does. It fits perfectly. Well, because remember, the Torah and the Gospel are the authority on whether or not the Quran gets the stuff right or wrong. It has to matter.
If the Quran had a verse that said, I don't know, Jesus played baseball. I can't think of the story, but Jesus played baseball on Friday before he was crucified. Well, that's wrong, right? That's not even in circulation. That's just something that is plain wrong. But when it says that
him not getting crucified is just plain wrong.
Well, the fact that it mentions that he was, that they tried to kill him, that's right. It's just that it's correcting. It's saying you think that he was crucified, but he wasn't. So that's a correction.
Do you see what you just did? If the Quran mentions that he played baseball before the crucifixion, that's just flat out wrong. Yeah. Why?
It's wrong because it's not part of the story. It's not the general part of the story.
Where does the story come from exactly? When you say it's not part of the story, where does the story come from? Where are you getting the story from?
Well, the Quran mentions the highlights of those stories, right?
No, where are you getting the story from? Because you already said if the Quran mentions that Jesus played baseball, that would be wrong because it doesn't go against the story. Where do you get the story from?
Yeah, I guess it's back to 1094, right? And validation of the general stories of the prophets from the Bible, from the Torah and the Gospel.
So you get the story of Jesus from the Gospel, right?
Yes. Yeah, I mean, perhaps that...
Yeah, so with that being said, the Quran, because if it mentions something that goes against the story that's in the Gospel, then the Quran is wrong. If it mentions he played baseball before the crucifixion, the Quran is wrong because according to the Gospel, Jesus didn't play baseball before the crucifixion.
Yeah, actually, no, I take that back. That example I gave was an incorrect example.
Oh, I like that example. That was a perfect example.
No, I think it was actually a mistake because the Quran can actually mention something that is not in the Bible. That is not in the Gospel.
Because it's not in the Bible.
Well, the Bible doesn't have the fact that he was raised up before he was crucified, and the Quran does.
That's because that is wrong. That's the point. Like I said, you brought a perfect example. You said if the Quran mentions something that is not in the story, then the Quran obviously got that wrong. Ding, ding, ding. Hit the point. So
I understand what you said.
Jesus was not crucified before being lifted up. The Quran got that wrong because according to the story, he was crucified and rose again 3 days later and then was risen up.
So I take these as corrections. I don't take them as, I take them as corrections to the biblical narrative.
Let's do this one last time. And then if it doesn't stick, we'll move on. According to 1094, what is the judge on whether or not the Quran gets these stories right or wrong? What is the judge?
I don't know if I would use the word judge, but what I would say is that 1094 is asking them to go back and verify that
all right,
these stories are in.
It's a little too slow. If they have doubts about the Quran, what are they supposed to check to make sure that the Quran is telling the truth?
Ask those who read the scripture before.
So the previous scriptures are the judge on whether or not the Quran's telling the truth, right?
Yeah, and we agreed earlier that in the context of the general stories of the prophets.
I didn't say in the context of the general stories. I agreed with that with the stories.
Yeah.
That's what I can allow. But I'm not going to allow this piecing of or whatever. No, I don't allow that because that's not what your Quran allows. But I can grant according to the stories. So the Quran has to match when it mentions these stories. It can't contradict the stories that the Torah and the gospel give, right? It can't contradict them. It has to be in line or consistent with them, right?
Generally, yes.
Can it at all contradict them?
Well, you see, when you say that, Avery, you're actually missing what it's actually doing. It's
Can it contradict the Torah or the gospel regarding these stories, my brother? That's a simple question.
Well, it is contradicting them.
So, okay.
It is actually consciously contradicting them.
All right, let me do this. If Muhammad is in doubt about the Quran, Allah tells him to go to previous scriptures that the Quran purposely contradicts to make sure his doubts are cleared up?
Excellent. So now you now got to the crux of the matter. And this is where the dilemma is faulty, or this is where the dilemma comes in. If you see the Quran as confirming the previous scriptures, and at the same time the Quran is contradicting them, then you have one of two places to go to. Either one, you say, you know what, this book is wrong because in one hand it's saying it confirms, and in the other hand it's contradicting. So you got a big problem there. The other option is for you to take the general option, which is, generally speaking, the Quran agrees with the stories in the previous scriptures. However, it is making conscious edits to those stories. That's a more plausible place to be.
I got you. So I'll ask it again. Yeah. When 1094 tells Muhammad that if he's doubting the Quran to go check with the previous scriptures, he's telling him to go check previous scriptures that his Quran purposely contradicts?
Again, that you're now in that first phase of the contradiction. I'm saying that he's saying that where you make this plausible, where it actually fits, is if he's going to verify. Sorry,
is my question difficult?
It's not difficult, but it's just not a yes or no. I can't do a yes or no on that particular question.
Okay. You can't give a yes or no on that.
On that one, I can't, because if I give a yes or no, then it makes the whole thing nonsensical. You cannot.
Your entire position is nonsensical because it's what you're saying. You're saying that the Quran is purposely contradicting the Torah and the gospel, and can purposely contradict them and still be true. When the Quran says here, so you got to just piece that together. Piece what you're saying together.
Yeah,
it's completely nonsensical. With that position, you have to reconcile with 1094, where it tells Muhammad that if he's doubting the Quran, if he's doubting what the Quran is saying, to go check the previous scriptures that the Quran is purposely contradicting. So in your position, Muhammad may be doubting the Quran regarding these stories. He goes to the previous scriptures and he sees that the stories actually don't match. It doesn't match. They bring up the same thing, but they don't match. It has the stories of the crucifixion of Jesus, but they don't match. So if Muhammad is doubting the Quran's version of the stories, and then Allah gives him a remedy, a solution on how to clear up his doubts regarding the stories, and leads him to something the Quran is purposely contradicting and not matching with, how does that make sense? How?
I agree with you. I agree
No,
with
you
you.
don't. You don't agree with me. You don't agree with me because you literally just said, excellent. When I asked you this question, you said, excellent. And see, the thing is that the Quran is purposely contradicting them. And it's still true. How? How, bro? What the frick?
Let me explain it. Let me explain it to you.
Oh my gosh. I don't
The
know
only
how you
way-
guys, bruh, I'm gonna let you talk too, but I don't know how y'all do this. Like I don't know how you guys can be Muslim. I don't like if this is what I have to do to be a Muslim, bro. Like I have to do this, what you're doing. You'll never see me or anybody in this chat say the Shahada when it's this dumb. Like this is dumb. I have to be honest with you. How? This is dumb. I'm losing my mind listening to you. And you think it's good. Like you really think it's good what you're saying. And you're not the only one. You're not the one who came up with this. You got it from the guys that we know that come up with this. It's so dumb. Jeez. But go ahead. I'll hear you out. This is so dumb.
No, it's only dumb if you take the position that the Quran is confirming it and the Quran is contradicting it, and that is dumb. And that's what I said. I agree with you. That position is dumb, but that's not the only viable position that's available. There's another position available, and that position.
Just to be clear, is there a position that's available where the Quran is not confirming the Bible?
Well, that position doesn't exist because it is confirming.
So here it is. In both positions,
Yeah.
the Quran is confirming the Bible. That's a necessity, right?
Yes.
And in your position, the Quran is also contradicting the Bible, right?
Yes. Correcting.
You just admitted that was dumb. You admitted that that's a dumb.
No. Hang on a second. You use the word contradicting. It is dumb if you say the Quran is confirming the Bible and contradicting the Bible. Okay? That together is dumb. But if the Quran is generally confirming the stories of the Bible and making conscious edits to those stories, that is a plausible position. That is a position you can stand on. Just take the story. Let me give you just one example. Take the story.
I appreciate you coming to. I appreciate your patience. I appreciate you for participating. You had a good, you were very polite. So I appreciate that. But I'm done. I cannot continue this.
No problem.
You take care of yourself.
Take care.
God bless you, man.
All right. Take care. Bye.
Okay, welcome back, guys. That was an amazing one. Let us know your thoughts, what you're able to learn in the comment section. The young man said the Quran is making a conscious edit. The question is, if the Quran is making conscious edit, why does Allah tell Muhammad to check the previous scriptures? That is the absolute worst method of communication. It shows that Allah does not know how to communicate with his prophet. Allah could have just ignored mentioning the previous scriptures completely and told Muhammad the correct event instead of wasting his time or perhaps giving him a revelation. Instead, the fact that Allah told Muhammad to check the previous scriptures tells us the previous scriptures are the benchmark to verify his revelation. So without the previous scriptures, then there is no validation for his own revelation at that time. The issue is they don't just reject the crucifixion in New Testament, they also reject the entire Old Testament too, unconsciously. They reject the idea of animal animal sacrifice and blood atonement. Yet, animal sacrifice is a key part of the entire Abrahamic narrative. By rejecting the practices of the priesthood, they reject the entire biblical narrative from Abel in Genesis all the way up to the Lamb in Revelation. Their position in this case is scripturally impossible to rectify, so they put themselves in a very, very tight corner. He agrees that the Torah and the Injil is authority over the Quran, yet says the Quran corrects the biblical narrative. How can authority be corrected being the point of reference? That is a logical fallacy, and this is Islam for you. Guys, thank you for watching. Share this video, subscribe. We will love to see you in the next episode.